Hello, and welcome to HES's webinar on with SolarEdge today. We're very excited to have Cameron Stewart from SolarEdge. He's an expert in the commercial side and on the residential side. He's going to be going through a 45-minute presentation on their advanced grid tie inverters. And during the presentation, if you do have questions, please type them in and we'll pose them for you after the presentation. We'll do a 15-minute Q&A for anything that does happen there. And yeah, thanks, Cameron, for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and really over to you. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cameron. So again, my name is Cameron Stewart, as opposed to Cameron Murdoch with HES. Really happy to be here. Basically, I'm the technical training manager for North America for SolarEdge, and head that control panel. In my experience in solar, I've been in the industry for 14 years. I've had a lot of residential and commercial and utility scale experience. So like Cameron said, if you have any questions, type them in the chat box. We'll get to them at the end, and I'm happy to answer them for you. So just a little bit about SolarEdge and what we do and who we are. Right now, we're the #1 inverter supplier to the US residential market. And we're #3 in commercial market. Now, this training is going to be commercial focused, and basically what I hope to articulate to you today and show you today is how we're making these strides in the commercial market, and then how we can help you with your business. We have about 4.7 gigawatts of systems shipped worldwide, almost 17 million power optimizers. So when SolarEdge first started, we sold just optimizers, but then we quickly developed our own inverter, and now we sell an optimized inverter, which leads me to my next point, which is we have over 650,000 inverters shipped worldwide, and of those systems that we have installed, we're actively monitoring just under 500,000. And we give you all of our communications for free, and the reason we do that is so we can help you and we can know before you go, and I've got some slides on that a little bit later. We're deployed in over 100 countries. We have 130 patent applications with 90 awarded patents. The reason I believe this is important, it just stresses that we dump a lot of money into R&D. We're a very profitable company, so if you were to look at we're publicly traded on NASDAQ. Our ticker number is SEDG. Stocks are doing pretty good today, last time I checked. And if you were to look at our financials, you would see that we've got some money in the bank. We do put a lot of money into R&D and development and new products and new things. We're basically a company of engineers. So let's talk about SolarEdge's solution. So for commercial rooftop, what we learned is, as the industry has progressed, we've gone from 600 volt maximum to 1,000 volt maximum, and the biggest reason for that was the string stretching effect. When you could put 11 modules or 12 modules on a string versus 19 modules on a string, you see a reduction in balance of system. With SolarEdge's topology, we just magnify that string stretching effect. We can get basically module string lengths of up to 15,300 watts, and I'll show you how we come to those calculations and those conclusions. But basically, we wire 2 modules in series or 2 modules in parallel to one optimizer, and then we connect those optimizers in series down to our inverter. So what's beautiful about this, our inverter doesn't have any MPPTs in it. That's all done at the module pair level or the optimizer level. And so it's glorified switchgear. All it does is sit on the wall and convert DC to AC energy. And then we have some other devices that may help you with your cloud-based monitoring. If you need some environmental sensors, we have those available to you. So let's talk a little bit about our inverters. So our 3-phase inverters, we offer at a 33.3 kilowatt, a 20 kilowatt, and 10 kilowatt, all available on a 480 volt grid. I know in Canada you guys have a 600 volt grid, so you would need a transformer to step that up. For a 208 volt grid, we do have 2 models available, the 14.4 and the 9 kilowatt. CEC efficiencies are really high on these inverters, 98.5%. Like I said, built-in communications. So we give you an standard RJ45 jack and Ethernet port. And so if you wanted to connect that to any network, it's free. All you have to do is run the Cat5 cable. We do have wireless options available, and I'll talk more about those later. For rapid shutdown, so in the US, we have this huge statement about protecting first responders, and the code reference for that was in the National Electrical Code 2014 edition. 69.12 talks about rapid shutdown and basically bringing your rooftop voltage to less than 30 volts within 10 seconds. I believe, and I could be wrong about this, that the Canadian Electrical Code adopted that same requirement in 2015. And then again, please someone chime in on the chat feature if it was in 2015 or if it's going to be this year in 2018.
No, that's correct. It's already implemented.
Okay, good. Thank you for the note. In the 2014 code in the US, what we learned is it wasn't very well defined. Basically, in the US, we said you're going to have some DC conductors coming from the roof. We need to control that voltage to less than 30 volts within 10 seconds, and it has to be labeled. And that was it. It didn't tell you anything about accessibility or anything about where does the device have to be placed. And it gave us a boundary around the array, within 10 feet of the array. So most people were getting around this requirement by putting inverters on the roof, because now it's AC conductors coming off of the roof, and per UL 1741, they meet all the rapid shutdown requirements. So in the 2017 National Electrical Code, we took a 180-word code article and made it 1,300 words, so we really identified a lot of things. We restricted the boundary, we decreased our rooftop voltage. So basically, the NEC 2017 code has added a lot to project costs, and you can't get away with putting an inverter on the roof anymore. You have to be very particular about how you control your rapid shutdown. So the point of this slide is really SolarEdge is very well aware of these requirements, and we actively integrate those things into our product to make you compliant. 12-year standard warranty on this inverter. You can expand it to 20 years. And then also another hot topic in the US right now is smart inverters. Basically, it's a new test standard called UL 1741 SA, and basically gives our inverter the ability to do reactive power control, low voltage ride through, frequency ride through, anything that you would want an inverter to do to help support grid stability. Our inverters can do. So right now we're in phase 1 of the rule, or phase 2 of the rule, where it basically says you just have to have an inverter that can do these things. And so all of our inverters do those things. At Solar in 2017, just a couple months ago, we launched our new commercial 3-phase inverter, and we call it the SE66 or the SE100. And basically, the only difference between these two inverters is how many secondary units you have. So we took our, let me go back a slide, we took our SE 33 kilowatt inverter and added a couple of secondary units to it. The beauty of this, I know it looks simple. You're like, oh, I just have 3 33 kilowatt inverters. But the beauty of it is with this big connection unit on the bottom of the primary inverter, we were able to basically give you an AC combiner panel for free. And this really helps reduce your AC balance of system cost. We already have your savings on DC balance of system cost just because of the architecture of SolarEdge and how our optimizers work, and we'll get into it. So we give you inside this connection unit, we give you our integrated DC safety switch with optional DC fuses and DC surge protection. It can be installed by 2 people, so that's huge. I mean, when I started in the industry, when I looked at a 100 kilowatt inverter, it was this giant pad mounted cabinet. So each one of these units only weighs like 50 pounds. So 2 people can install this, and if you had a big ground mount array, you could put that on the back of the pole, the racking system. So that's one of the biggest things I really like about it. Also, what I like about it is a little bit of redundancy. So if for example, if this secondary unit on the left fails for whatever reason, you don't lose 100 kilowatts. You only lose 33. So it's got a minimal impact on energy generation. Commissioning is a lot better with these. You may have noticed that we're missing an LCD display. And especially for Canada, because it gets so cold, you know, -40 in Canada, the LCD display is no longer going to be a point of failure for you guys. With these inverters, we have local onboard Wi-Fi, and all an installer has to do is pull out his smartphone, connect to the inverter very simply, one touch of a button using the SolarEdge app, and then you can program and configure all of the inverters that are connected in a communication daisy chain. So using RS-45 Modbus, you can program all these inverters from one spot with your smartphone. So it's really easy to do, and I like it a lot. For our optimizers, we have a P600, a P700, a 730, P800P, and P800S. So the 600 and 700 have primarily been our workhorse for getting to number 3 in commercial business in the US right now. We just launched our P800P, which stands for parallel. And basically this optimizer is used for if you have a module that has a 5-inch cell and high efficiency. So if the way I remember it is Panasonic P makes a 5-inch cell module that's like 395 watts or something, and it's got a 5-inch cell. It's very efficient. So I'm going to put 2 of those in parallel. So Panasonic in parallel to the P800P. Another high efficiency 5-inch cell module may include SunPower. So that should be the other one you'd use with this optimizer. The P800S is going to be your high power bifacial modules, or just your high power 2 modules in series, and that's what the S stands for, series. For the 600, 730, these basically, again, are 2 modules in series to 1 optimizer. Now, the important thing here is look at the, oops, let me go back, sorry. Look at the bottom row. This tells you our inverter on the left, so SE9, 14, 10, 20, and 33.3. And then it tells you the maximum string length. So if you're on a 208 grid, the maximum string length for the SE9000 is a 600 watts per string. Or excuse me, 6,000 watts per string. So if we had a 300 watt module, we could get 20 of them in series. However, if you look at the 480 volts inverters, the 33 kilowatt, you can get 15,000 watts on a string. So again, if we had our 300 watt module, we could put 50 modules on 1 string. Now, some of you may be asking, well, how do you meet rapid shutdown? Again, so if we have 50 modules on 1 string, our modules are installed 2 modules to 1 optimizer. Now, SolarEdge's optimizers, which we'll cover later, has a functionality called SafeDC, and basically we revert in an open circuit voltage, we revert to 1 volt DC per optimizer. So this means that in a rapid shutdown state with 50 modules on a string, your voltage, your rooftop voltage would be the number of optimizers you have in series, so 25 optimizers for 25 volts. So that's how we meet our rapid shutdown requirements. And then if you're using our new P800P and P800S optimizers, that goes up to 15,300 watts per string. So hopefully the dollar signs are rolling in your eyes right now, and you can see all the savings that you're going to get from balance of system costs. And I think I have a breakdown. I do. Okay, cool. So inverters, they represent about 10% of your entire system cost, a little bit less. I think it's around 8. But they have a direct impact on 20% of the system cost. So what do I mean by that? If you buy the, let's say we buy the cheapest inverter we can find and it's 600 volts, whatever it is, whoever it is, it could directly impact your system cost by up to 20%, because if we buy a 600 volt inverter, that means our string lengths are 600 volts, which means we have a lot more copper on that rooftop. right? It could be a pad, it could be a concrete pad, it could be many things. So it's not, when you're looking at inverter comparisons, you can't just consider inverter to inverter. It's more than that. You have to look at the entire system cost, okay? And then also when we consider an inverter manage 100% of the system, so if that 100 kilowatt inverter goes down, you lose 100 kilowatts, versus SolarEdge, we only lose that 33 kilowatts. So right here I've got, basically we're going to look at EBOS, we're going to look at O&M, and this was my source from NREL in 2015. So this is the inverter breakdown and cost. So how, let me go back a slide. So what I hope to iterate is how we help you with these costs, and what target areas are we going to look at? Well, we're going to look at more lifetime revenue. We're going to look at installation cost savings, lower O&M costs, and enhanced safety. So when I see this slide, I think of, well, not all of these things mean everything to everyone. For example, if I am just an EPC and I have, I'm engineering, I'm procuring, and I'm constructing, I may not really care about what the lifetime revenue is. That's going to be a system owner benefit, not a EPC benefit. But what I am interested in is installation cost savings, because that's a benefit to me as an EPC. I'm definitely interested in lower O&M costs, because I'm the EPC, probably picking up a 10-year warranty or O&M contract, and I want to keep my risk mitigation high. So I want to keep my installers safe on the roof while they're working. So 3 of these 4 things are hugely beneficial to me. But if I'm a system owner, yeah, I'm really interested in my lifetime revenue. So let's take a look at these 4 things and see what we can get. So with SolarEdge, because we have basically module level or optimizer level MPPT, we are going to produce more energy. We have been tested by a number of third parties, PVsyst, Helioscope, Aurora. They have all validated our product, and they say without any shading, SolarEdge produces 3% more energy from day one. Now, from day one out of the box, this is great. 3%, even unshaded out of the box, this is great versus a typical string inverter. Now, as these solar panels degrade over time, they get snow coverage or whatever happens to them, photo degradation occurs at different rates. And we know that, yes, this module is 278 watts today, but 10 years from now, it's probably going to be 268 watts. Versus this middle module, that's 265, that actually may stay at 265 for 10 years, right? So as time goes on, SolarEdge produces more energy because we're not subject to losses and having to produce the lowest common denominator. Module mismatch is what that's called. Now that's for unshaded conditions. I've had a lot of installers tell me, Cameron, I need to get as much solar as I can on that rooftop because this building is a factory, it's got huge loads, and with 150 kilowatts, I'm not going to be able to even put a fraction of a dent into their utility bill. So can I build my solar array around these HVAC units, these air handlers? Of course. So if you put our modules in the shade, and you know, shade being relative, obviously we don't want to shade a complete module, but if you choose to do that, we have a shade mitigation factor of 25%, and it only affects that one optimizer, right? All the other optimizers will boost their voltage and pass that excess power through as voltage if something gets shaded. So we have installers that are able to now load a lot more power onto rooftops because they can stack modules closer to those air handlers. They're not worried about shading. And because of our design tolerance, I said our maximum string length was 15,000 watts. Our minimum string length is 13 optimizers. So you have a wide window of being able to install between 26 and 50 modules, or 13 modules if you went 1-to-1, and 50 modules. So design flexibility really means if you're doing carports, or if you're trying to completely load up a roof and you're worried about your string configuration, that helps you solve a lot of those problems. So let's talk about balance of cost saving. So like I said before, in the industry, we went from 600 volts to 1000 volts just so we can get longer strings. So SolarEdge looks at our string length, and we can get 15 kilowatts per string. So on this traditional string inverter, it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strings coming back to a combiner box and then going to the inverter. We can do 45 kilowatts of solar on 3 strings, right? So we don't need any combiners. So less wiring, no combiners, less on-site crimping of MC connectors. So we can see up to a 50% reduction in balance of system costs. And this reduces the risk of failure. Every time we have a field-made crimp of an MC connector or an Amphenol connector, that is a failure point. And what we're starting to see in the industry now is that's where most of your arc faults and failures are coming from, is those field installed or field made crimps. So I did a comparison, and on the estimate of DC labor and AC labor savings with our SE 100 kilowatt. So I did exactly the same system size. It was a 204.6 kilowatt DC traditional string 1000 volt string inverter versus SolarEdge. Your AC power 168 kilowatts versus 166.5 kilowatts. So they beat us on the AC power rating. The DC to AC ratio was comparable, 1.22 to 1.23. Same number of modules, and we were able to do this with 2 inverters versus 7 inverters, right? So number of strings went from 33 to 15, so we have 50% less number of strings. So our modules per strings went up, so they basically doubled, 44 versus 20. So our DC cable length dropped by half almost, 5,692 feet of copper versus 10,000 feet of copper. So you probably should be calculating in your head, oh man, copper costs $1 a foot. I don't know if that's what it is, but whatever it is, you should be thinking, I just saved, $5 grand, 50 grand just on copper, right? AC cable length, same thing. We saw about half. So our cable costs dropped by 56%. We didn't need any combiner boxes. We have one AC combiner or recombiner. So our overall balance of system savings was about 2.8 cents per watt just because of our DC and AC cable savings. That's huge, 2.8 cents a watt. So if you're trying to look, again, you have to look at the entire system. And I had a sales guy that lived in the East Coast, and he said to me, Cameron, if you give me, whatever, I don't want to say any prices, so I'm not going to say it, but he said, if you give me this much money for an inverter and power optimizer, I will give you an inverter and power optimizer back and this much money, the same amount of money in savings. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the National Electrical Code. And again, I fully understand Canadian Electrical Code comes out a year after the NEC, and you guys typically adopt the same code. So in 15 states, I'm going to just breeze over this real fast, but in 15 states, we're basically moving everything to 2017 code. So that is the more restrictive, more controlled version of rapid shutdown. So in the US, we originally said it was you have to bring your rooftop voltage to less than 30 volts within 10 seconds. We extended the time range, and now it's 30 seconds. And then we have a special effective date of no more than 80 volts on the rooftop. And that has an effective date of January 1, 2019, when initiation of a rapid shutdown has occurred. So if you're using string inverters now in the US, by 2019, you will have to use some type of module level power electronic. So that's just the way the industry is moving. They're moving to MLPEs. So what I would say is I would want to get up to speed and ready for that code amendment and use as much MLPs as I can. So let's talk a little bit about O&M, so operation and maintenance. This is near and dear to my heart because I did live my life 2 years as an O&M manager turning my wrench in a 3 megawatt field and above. So let's talk a little bit about O&M. And if we look at the cost structure, we see about 10% overhead, monitoring, reporting about 15%. At the company that I worked for, we had to pay these fees. We paid My PV Data and Aurora Vision and FatSpan, Energy Recommerce. We paid these people for, inverter level monitoring. Sometimes we had string level monitoring, right? Preventative maintenance, what are you doing to prevent going out to the job site? And then corrective maintenance, things happen over a year, and we want to see, like, how can I save you money, and even if stuff goes wrong. So O&M budgets on average are about 1 to 2% of your initial capital costs. So what I like to say it as, it's about $10 to $20 per kilowatt per year. So if I had a 200 kilowatt system, that would be $2,000 on the low end per year, and I'm warranting that for 10 years, so that'd be $20,000. Hopefully that math made sense. And again, this is all sourced. So what can SolarEdge do for you? Well, first, we have been able to empirically show that monitoring reduces the cost of O&M. Just having the visibility and knowing what's happening on site will reduce your cost of operations and maintenance. SolarEdge gives you free module level monitoring for 25 years. Now, many of you are probably like, why is it only 25 years? What do I do at year 26? The reason we say 25 years is an insurance thing. We can't say free module level monitoring for life, because what does life mean? So we had to put an expiration date on it, 25 years. I don't think we're going to be charging you for anything after that, but we had to say 25 years. So the potential to save $1,000 of subscription fees is instant. We can save $1,000 in reduced truck rolls on site and troubleshooting, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, so scanning. Well, let me go back a slide. So if we look at this tablet in the bottom right-hand corner here, we see, oh man, this is awesome. This guy has all of this module level data. And that's great, because then you can see, oh, this module has a blow-in diode. And then you could go to the field and pull out that module and replace that module and send that as an RMA to the module manufacturer. But then you probably thought to yourself, that means I have to have someone on site, collecting all those serial numbers and creating that layout. So in our monitoring portal, we just started a beta feature about 6 months ago, where you can create this layout in your portal by uploading a DXF file. So for all of you engineers in the audience, it's very simple. You go to the administrative tab and go to logical layout, and it tells you there's 3 ways to create this layout. You can make a block diagram and drag and drop. It's kind of clunky. You can use your phone to do it, or you can upload a DXF file. And so most installers are uploading their DXFs, and it pretty much is flawless if you just follow our guide of how to do it. Then what I recommend is the installer on site downloads the SiteMapper app to their phone. And I bought a selfie stick. I never thought I would own a selfie stick, but I do. I can take some awesome pictures now. But anyway, what I did with my selfie stick is I put my phone at the end of the selfie stick, and I was able to just walk down the row. So you select a starting point, and you say, okay, I want to start from this module. And then you click the barcode icon at the top of your phone, and this screen will pop up. And it'll say, okay, you're going to use the camera of your phone to scan barcodes. Once the scan is successful, the phone alerts you 3 ways. It vibrates, it says a serial number across the screen, and then it makes an audible beep. Once the scan has been successful, it automatically moves you to the next module in the row. So what I did for our commercial rooftop in Fremont is I bought the selfie stick, and I just scanned one optimizer, walked to the next, and just walked all the way down the row until I got to the end of the row. And then when I got to here at the far right-hand side, once I scanned this optimizer, the app was smart enough, was intuitive enough to know to take me down to the next row, and then each successful scan brought me back. So I didn't have to walk all the way back to the beginning and then scan again. So it's very intuitive, and if I wanted to jump around the roof, I could do that. I could say, oh, I'm going to start scanning from here. So it doesn't take very long to use our app for to scan serial numbers of optimizers. It was very simple. If you didn't want to use our phone, you can use basically any QR scanner laser gun that you would get at the grocery store. And what I've done in the past is I've opened up an Excel spreadsheet, and I just use the Excel spreadsheet as my layout. And I had a wireless scanner, and I just, again, hold that my laptop and scan down the row as I was successful with each scan with the laser gun. So it's up to you. I'm a big fan of the app. I think it works great. For monitoring, SolarEdge now has what we call a commercial cellular kit. Now, I know it's available in the US, and I know we're so close, if not already there, bringing it into Canada, but we're basically working with cell providers. And what we can do with our commercial cellular GSM is we can wire up to 500 kilowatts DC to one cellular card. Okay, so the modem is installed directly into the inverter, and you just daisy chain RS-45 these inverters together, and now you don't have to worry about integrating your inverter communications into the building's network. Why that's hugely important is I've installed on a lot of schools, I've done a lot of government buildings, and they don't always want me on their network. And I'm sure a lot of you have come into the same problems. So this gives me the ability to monitor completely wireless. It takes to install the modem takes about less than 3 minutes, and it can again report up to 500 kilowatts DC. So if we had our SE100K, because we can overload that 135% DC to AC ratio, that is about 300 kilowatt inverters, maybe 4, depending if you go light on your DC to AC ratio. Excuse me. The CCG basically gives us our weather sensors on site, so supported weather stations. We can get revenue grade metering, and we can also integrate that into the cellular service. A new feature that we're offering right now, or I should say coming soon, we can do satellite-based performance ratio. So this enables a site without any weather or environmental stations on site. I don't know what the price is, but using our satellites, we can give you a performance ratio of what we think the site should be producing versus what it is producing. What's nice about this is if you're starting to run up against a production analysis or a production guarantee, you can start using the satellite performance ratio and start accounting, okay, why is my production a lot lower than I think it should be? And you can see, oh, that's because all my modules have been under snow for 5 weeks, or whatever the case may be. Inverter replacement. So one of the other brackets of the O&M wheel was corrective maintenance, and things are going to go wrong, and we probably all know in the industry, as inverters, as a 10-year warranty, let me back up. Our inverters have a standard 12-year warranty, and we know in a 20-year lifespan, we're going to touch that inverter at least once, maybe twice. So with SolarEdge, our warranty extensions are very low cost. So to take this 33.3 kilowatt inverter to a 20-year warranty, it only costs $450. I mean, that's nothing. $450 to extend it for 20 years. So with your corrective maintenance, if you already know you're planning on replacing the inverter maybe once, maybe twice, we have a very low cost replacement. So let's look at this wheel again. And based on all the things that I talked about, reduced remote inspections, lower monitoring fees, and lower replacement costs, SolarEdge on average can save you about 25% in O&M. just having the ability to see what's happening on site, just low replacement costs, and basically preventive maintenance, I mean, that's going to save you 25% on O&M. And the last thing I want to talk about was safety. So safety, like I said earlier, our optimizers revert to 1 volt DC in an open circuit voltage. So for residential, you know, if we have 9 modules in series, we have that equals 9 volts. For commercial, again, we have 50 modules in series, but they're installed 2 modules per 1 optimizer, which is about 25 volts. So we meet all those rapid shutdown requirements in the US. And then lastly, to help us to take more commercial market share, we offer a complete, comprehensive suite of services. So all you have to do is give us a call. If you are trying to win a bid or you're doing a project design before it's even closed, give us a call. We can help you with your design. We can make recommendations and help guide you through that process. We can run a PV simulation. We can say, oh yeah, I use helioscope all the time. And I can say, okay, helioscope estimates that we'll produce this much energy, that this is our cable length. I also use PV-Syst for that, and we can help you with your LCOE and your ROI analysis. After the project has been sold and you have begun construction, we do design validation. We double check that design to make sure it looks great. We can come to the site, do hands-on training with your contractor, with your subcontractor. We basically walk you through the process, on-site support during construction, remote operations, and automatic commissioning. And then after construction has been done, we help you with your first 30 days of O&M. So we look at your site. We, SolarEdge, actively monitors your site. We check for performance. We check, you know, are the modules working the way they should? How we modify our alerts to make sure everything is working the way it should, and then we hand it off to you. So we offer you all of these things for free. All you have to do is call us, and we'll come help you. So that's the biggest motivation for us to take that commercial market share, and we give you all this to you for free. So right now we have 3 commercial account managers. We have 1 in California, 1 in New York, and 1 in Texas. So it's not too hard for us to send, you know, East Coast, West Coast. If you're in Ontario, obviously that'd be East Coast, or excuse me, yeah, our New York representative would head up there. But if you're in Vancouver, then yeah, we're going to send our West Coast guy up there. So, you know, wherever your project is, we have local resources, well, local-ish resources that can help you. And then lastly, one more thing real fast. Surge protection is kind of huge to me. So we just developed, if you're going to have a long daisy chain communication of inverters, we launched our RS45 surge protection device. And I'm just going to tell you, if you're buying a commercial inverter and planning on doing a ground mount, just buy one of these RS45 surge protection devices per inverter. It's very low cost. It takes 2 seconds to install, and it protects your inverter, which is important. So make sure you buy that surge protection card. So why SolarEdge? Hopefully I was able to hammer all the points. We're a strong, financially bankable company. My main motivation at SolarEdge is to help you guys, and I want to help you reduce your balance of system costs. I want to help you reduce your O&M costs, and I want to help increase your energy production. Improve asset management, all that module level data, and then that free complete service suite. So thank you for your time and attention. Just 1 second.
Yeah, I'll open it up to some questions so they can take through. Did you have something else before we get into questions, Cameron?
No, I just want to say thank you for your time and attention. I really appreciate you guys having me on the phone. Yeah, if you have any questions, please shoot them over.
So there's only really one at this time. So if you want to get your questions in, try to get them in quick to the questions tab there. But the main thing is, if you could just maybe walk through the entire process of what happens in a rapid shutdown scenario. So basically, you lose power at the grid. What does the inverter do? What do the optimizers do? What is the process of the shutdown? How does that look?
Yeah. I think I've got something that will help with that. Okay. So this is a residential system, but it still applies to what we're doing. So under normal operation, our SolarEdge inverter is working, our PV module is working, and our SolarEdge optimizer is working. If the system is on, the optimizers send a fixed voltage to the inverter. That DC voltage for commercial products is 850 volts. Just 1 second, I have a tickle in my throat. I'm going to cough. Okay, sorry about that. So that's 850 volts DC. Now, when you initiate rapid shutdown for SolarEdge's 33 kilowatt and the 14.4 kilowatt inverter, you can initiate rapid shutdown by one of two ways, and the SE100 and 66. You can turn off the DC disconnect, or you can turn off the AC disconnect. Now, I know in Canada, especially in Ontario, with your FIT programs, 10 kilowatts is the cap, and you can use a 10 kilowatt inverter, but that is a DC disconnect only. Currently, it's DC disconnect only. So we delineated these two things by calling it automatic rapid shutdown versus manual rapid shutdown. So automatic rapid shutdown says if anything happens to the grid, the inverter will meet all rapid shutdown requirements as it is written in the 2017 National Electrical Code. Manual rapid shutdown means you have to turn off the inverter's DC disconnect switch, and it will meet all the rapid shutdown requirements as set forth in the 2017 code and the 2014 code. It's just initiated by the DC side. So let's look at what the system's doing. So the system's on. Optimizers are at 11.4 amps, 21.9 volts. Once we initiate our rapid shutdown device, the optimizers within 30 seconds revert to 1 volt per optimizer and 0 amps. And we basically do this over DC power line communication, and it's a high frequency signal that we use to help us do that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that walks through the process. Perfect.
Yeah, and so here's like just the evolution of the code. We've trademarked that functionality, SafeDC, and SolarEdge has had SafeDC since 2010, well before rapid shutdown was ever a requirement. It just so happened like when 2014 NEC and 2015 Canadian Electrical Code, CEC, came about, we already had a solution that was integrated into our product. We just had to meet the time requirement, which was originally written as 10 seconds and then extended to 30 seconds. The 2017 code, same thing. It just defines a little bit more about how rapid shutdown has to be performed.
One of the other questions is the 14.4 kilowatt 208 available, and the answer is yes, we have that in stock currently. So,
nice.
Other than that, doesn't look like to be a flood of questions in right now. So yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, you can contact any of us at HES, or I think Cameron had given some of his contact information, but behind that, we're available for any of the product support side. And if a question is out of our scope, we'll bring in the specialists like Cameron or his team. So.
Yeah, so here's our contact information on the bottom. You can always email us at info@SolarEdge. Go to our website. Yeah, feel free to reach out to HES, and HES will get to me, and we can hammer out any of those other questions you may have. And again, I really appreciate your time and attention, so thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much, Cameron.
Right on, Cameron. Thank you very much. Well articulated.
I hope so. That means I'm the best explainer, which is why there's no questions.
Thanks everybody for coming today. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, give us a call.